currently almost 11:30 on Saturday night, and probably the worst possible time to do a video like this. But the reason why it's coming so late is because I did not want to do this. I did not want to have to talk about this issue. I did not want to even watch the video of George Floyd. I did not want to follow the news coverage. What I wanted to be doing right now is really prepping for Pentecost Sunday. What I wanted to be doing was focusing all our energy on making the first Sunday back in the sanctuary as positive as possible. I wanted to just not have to go here, but the problem is I recognize that as a pastor, as an African-American pastor in this community, I have to say something about this. Now, first thing I need to say is right now in Minnesota in particular, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of riots happening in the streets, and there's buildings being burned down. I want to be clear about something. I do not believe that everything that's happening in Minnesota is due to the incident with George Floyd. The authorities have already stated that it's clear people from outside of Minnesota are coming in. I know at least last night, all of the arrests they made were from people out of town. There's a belief that there's an organized crime component, maybe even some other groups that are infiltrating. And so the thing I want to say is we never want to burn down buildings. It's never going to help. I think a lot of what's taking place is not folks there in Minnesota that are grieving. It's a lot of folks that are seeing that as a cover to start other things. There are some conspiracy theories that I don't want to get into here now. However, and this is what's really sad about the rioting and all of the looting that's taking place, it's taking the focus off of the issue. And the issue, quite honestly, was highlighted on Monday when we all as a nation watched George Floyd get murdered in cold blood, handcuffed, just unarmed, not able to respond. Now, the reality is there are many people that will say, yeah, but what happened before? And I don't really think that matters. You can't murder a person the way you did for when you're not in fear for your life. I think the good news is the officer was arrested. The good news is it seems like there's action being taken, which is unusual. But I want to say that the problem with even that event Monday night wasn't even at the heart of the matter. It was all of the events that led up to this, not just in Minnesota. They've had other issues, but in Philadelphia and different parts of the country. You had Philando Castile, you had Tamir Rice, you've had Keith Scott. You've had all of these examples of all of these young black men that were shot and killed, many times by police officers. Many times, in most cases, none of the police officers were convicted of a crime, if in any. In most cases, none of the officers were even tried or even charged, and hardly any were ever fired. And honestly, this one with George Floyd is one of the most progressive times that this has happened, which is really sad to say. But if you think about all of the times that we've had unarmed black men, young black men who many times were shot in their backs, in the back of their heads. They were in different situations where they clearly were not being aggressive, whether they were being choked to death, whatever the case may be. You see all of those instances building. And you see yet one more event that's probably more gruesome than anything we've ever seen. And that's where I think a lot of the pain is felt. That's where a lot of the frustration and anger comes from. And I have to say that I can understand that anger. I have to say that I can relate to that anger. And I have to say that sometimes it's okay to be angry. Now, the Bible tells us very clearly we can be angry but sin not. Now, so clearly there's boundaries of what we can do with that. I believe that, a lot of times, when we get angry, it's a challenging situation because we tend to want to be destructive. A lot of times we want to be under control because we don't want to get out of control and do things we shouldn't do, say things we should not say. And I think that's important. And I have to say, throughout my entire life, I tried to make it a point not to be the angry black man because I understand that that's a problem. It can be very intimidating. And so I know how important it is to not allow your anger to get out of control. But at the same time, I think we must recognize that things have to change. Again, don't burn down buildings. I'm not suggesting we do anything crazy to destroy your own neighborhood. A lot of that stuff, I think, is distracting from the point. But here's the point. I think it is okay to be angry. I think God has allowed us to have that emotion for a reason, and that's what we're going to actually end up talking about in service on tomorrow. I believe that as the church, there's a time to be angry. And there's a thing that we call righteous indignation. There's a time where for us to get angry because we have to say that enough is enough. There's a time where I believe that anger and that energy on the inside that says we got to do something, we have to lash out. We ought to use that to lash out against the right things. I believe that the systems of racism and injustice, we need to lash out against that. I believe it's the systems of inequality we have to lash out against. I believe as people and children of God that we have to take this anger and focus it. I believe we need to focus that energy in prayer. I was talking to a pastor friend today who was really just reiterating the fact that, man, we got to hear from God. We got to get to the place where we get into his presence. Only God can change these things and heal these things. We got to tap in, and I believe sometimes we need a little bit of anger to push us to pray like we've never prayed before. And so, as a result, as I said, I want to encourage us as the church to do a couple things. Number one, to not just gloss over what's taking place and just say, oh, it's just some angry black people that are going through some things. Not to even get so focused on the fact that, yeah, I know, but there's rioting, which is not right, and everything else. Not allow that to distract us from the important issues. And my encouragement as the church is that we would use this time, and no matter what you're feeling, and maybe you're afraid, maybe you're fearful, use that energy to prayer. Push us to another place so that we can actually take action and use it to accomplish God's will. I believe God has a plan and a purpose in this. I believe God saw this coming. I believe God never scratching his head saying, what am I going to do now? I believe the real challenge for us, even in the middle of all of this, in the middle of COVID, in the middle of everything that's going on, the economic upheaval, that we need to use our energy to press in, to hear from God. We need to take this time to press in and start to address some of the issues and some of the structural problems we have. I'm going to be announcing some things tomorrow that we're going to be doing as a ministry to really start some conversations around these areas. I think we need to take this energy and we need to focus it to do something not destructive but constructive, not just tear things down but build things up, build bridges to reach out and make a difference. And so that's what I wanted to share. A little bit long, a lot of rambling, but I just want to just leave that with you on tonight and pray that you'll be with us tomorrow. We will be in the service. We'll be in the sanctuary once again. We'll be here at 9. We'll be here at 11. If you are not comfortable being here, we do have the online service. We are going to have, face masks. We're actually going to give 12 feet of distance, not just 6. We're doubling that. We're going to have all of the precautions. So if you feel comfortable, come on out, worship with us. It's going to be an awesome time. And if not, we'll see you online. Either way, God bless.